The X-Men movies are broken. Well, not in terms of quality. 5 out of 7 of them are pretty great. I'm talking about the continuity, or the timeline of the films. It is just a mess. Less so after Days of Future Past, but still. So today, let's break down just a few of the timeline problems there are in this series, and just for the sake of it, I'm also going to try to justify these, or figure out how they might make sense. Devil's advocate type thing. Also, beware of spoilers for all these films. Firstly, let's get through some fairly obvious ones. Why does Wolverine have adamantium claws in Days of Future Past? At the end of the Wolverine, he got them removed in the most expected plot twist of all time, but then he busts them out in the future. So what's up with that? The explanation that many people have offered, and the one that I'll accept, is that Magneto used his powers to put some adamantium into Wolverine's body, somehow. Speaking of Days of Future Past, there's another one that is only kind of a continuity issue. The Sentinels in the future kill mutants, but also kill people who could have mutant kids. However, in X2, Pyro mentions that it's actually men who pass on the mutant gene, so that would mean that the future is primarily an Amazonian-esque, mostly female world. The reason I say this is only kind of a continuity problem is that we don't technically see that much of the future, so maybe it is like this. Also, last Days of Future Past one, kind of, Wolverine cuts Kitty Pryde while having this weird memory seizure. But really, shouldn't he have cut her a lot more than that? She says that he coexists in past and present. So when this, or this, or this is happening, shouldn't Kitty Pryde be just completely decapitated? I can't really think of an explanation for this, but I'm sure there's something that I've missed that someone in the comments will let me know. Alright, this next one is the first in many age-related issues. Firstly, Mystique. She changes into a human due to the cure in X-Men 3, but here she's a young woman. In reality, she should be as old as Patrick Stewart, since she was friends with him as a child and they grew up together. But I guess that would have made the scene a lot weirder. An explanation? Well, maybe her powers stop her from aging past the age of, like, 30, maybe? Next is Cyclops. He's seen in X-Men Origins Wolverine as a high school student. Origins Wolverine takes place in the late 70s. So if Cyclops is like 17 or 18 in the late 70s, and X-Men 1 takes place sometime in the mid to late 2000s, then he should be 45 to 50 by X-Men 3, which he clearly isn't. I really don't have an excuse for this one. It's just dumb. That being said, pretty much everything that came from that movie is dumb. Speaking of dumb things in that movie, Professor X appears. And by Professor X, I mean terrible CGI Patrick Stewart. Anyway, my main complaint is that Professor X goes from looking like this to this in about 5 years. You know what? Maybe that's possible, but come on. Oh, and while we're on the topic of CGI Patrick Stewart, the opening scene of X-Men 3 features a walking Professor X meeting up with a free Magneto. So that means that these extreme enemies decided to meet up as friends just to talk to Jean Grey. It also means that Professor X continued to take the drug that lets him walk, but that means he'd also have lost his telepathic powers. Also, Magneto must have somehow gotten out of the Pentagon, because this isn't the Days of Future Past new and improved timeline. So how he did that, we don't know. Also, every person in America would be looking for the escaped convict who murdered JFK. Oh, and 2 things on Professor X and Magneto. 1, Professor X says he and Magneto met when they were 17, but they actually met as young men, as seen in First Class. 2, Professor X doesn't know how Magneto's blocking his telepathy, but he should, since he saw the helmet in use in First Class. An explanation for this? Professor X's memory is failing him, even though he has the strongest mind on Earth, so that doesn't really work. I'm trying my best here. Now, these last ones I'm not going to try to justify. I'm now just going to go through 2 characters whose appearances have drastically changed. First, Stryker. He looks like this in 1973, this in 1977, 78, or 79, and then like this in 2007-ish. So that doesn't really add up. And finally, this guy in The Last Stand is Bolivar Trask. Somehow. Actually, Bryan Singer has tried to explain this. This guy is only credited as Trask, not Bolivar Trask, so maybe it's all just a coincidence. So those are just a few of the continuity problems in the X-Men timeline. I've only scratched the surface, so feel free to let me know in the comments some that I've missed. Hit the like button, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.